What the hell? Get away from that display! You people always looking for something to steal?
I'm sorry, sir. I just wanted to read.
Read? Don't play games with me, kid. Homeless thugs don't read ancient languages. You probably can't even spell your own name. Now get out before I drag you out.
Thomas Webb's hand clamped on Elijah's shoulder. Rough. Public. Like grabbing a stray dog. Dr. Sinclair's assistant walked past. She saw the whole thing, kept walking. Elijah held a crumpled flyer. The museum seeks volunteer translators, all languages welcome. Nobody looked twice. Inside, 12 PhDs surrounded a document worth $200 million. Ancient script. Impossible to decode. The answer was in the hands of the boy they just humiliated. Have you ever dismissed someone's potential before they even opened their mouth? The delivery truck arrived at 7:15. Elijah slipped through the loading dock while Webb argued with the driver about paperwork. He followed the voices, urgent, frustrated, coming from the third floor. The conservation lab door stood half open. Elijah stopped in the doorway. 12 people crowded around a glass case, scholars in expensive clothes, 3 faces on video screens. Everyone is staring at a single piece of parchment under UV light. The document looked ancient, brown, cracked, covered in symbols that seemed to dance in the lamplight. "We have 48 hours. The woman speaking had gray hair and coffee stains on her white lab coat. Dr. Margaret Sinclair. Her voice carried the weight of someone who'd stopped sleeping. 48 hours before the Egyptian delegation arrives. This contract determines ownership of artifacts worth $200 million. A younger man, expensive watch gleaming, leaned closer. Dr. Sinclair, the symbols don't match any known Coptic dialect we've cataloged. I can see that, Marcus. Her jaw tightened. On the largest screen, a man with thick glasses spoke. Dr. Ramon Ortiz. Margaret, I've run it through every database. The syntax is completely irregular. It's like they invented their own commercial shorthand. Another voice from a different screen. Could be a forgery. It's not a forgery. Dr. Sinclair's tone ended that discussion. The papyrus dates to 4th century. We've confirmed that. We just can't read what it says. Silence filled the room, the kind of silence that costs careers. Elijah's eyes moved across the document. His lips moved silently. Reading. The symbols made sense. Perfect sense. Like reading his native language. It wasn't pure Coptic. It was Sahidic mixed with Judeo-Aramaic commercial abbreviations, the kind merchants used along the Nile trade routes. He'd read about this exact dialect structure in a book 3 years ago, page 94. He could still see the page. Jennifer, the assistant, glanced toward the door, saw him. "Security!" Her voice cut through the room. "There's someone..." Elijah didn't think. The words just came out. "It's not Coptic. It's Sahidic mixed with Judeo-Aramaic commercial shorthand." Every head turned. They saw a skinny black kid in an oversized jacket, 15 years old, standing in a room where he absolutely did not belong. The room went silent. Not the comfortable silence of thinking. The shocked silence of a pattern breaking. Dr. Ortiz leaned toward his camera. "That's actually theoretically possible, but it's a 20-second guess from someone who..." His eyes traveled up and down Elijah. The worn sneakers, the too big jacket, the way the kid stood like he was ready to run. "Someone untrained." "Who what, Ramon?" Dr. Sinclair's voice had an edge. Ortiz backpedaled. "Someone without formal credentials." Marcus, the younger curator, crossed his arms. "Dr. Sinclair, how did this kid even get in here?" "I'm standing right here." Elijah's voice was quiet. "I can hear you." "Doctor." Sinclair turned. Her eyes met Elijah's, sharp, assessing, not dismissive. "How old are you?" 15, ma'am." Murmurs rippled through the room. Someone laughed. not a kind laugh. 15, Marcus repeated. This is what we're doing now? Listening to teenagers off the street? Where did you learn about Sahidic Aramaic hybrid scripts? Dr. Sinclair ignored Marcus completely. Elijah shifted his weight. I read about it. In a book. Which book? Kaufman's Comparative Analysis of Semitic Trade Languages. The library had it in the reference section. Dr. Sinclair's eyebrows went up. That book was graduate level. Dense. Most PhD students struggled with it. You read Kaufman? Yes, ma'am. The whole thing? Yes, ma'am. Another scholar, older woman with silver hair, shook her head. Margaret, this is absurd. We're wasting time. But Dr. Sinclair kept her eyes on Elijah. Can you read any of this document? Marcus stepped forward. Doctor. Sinclair, we can't seriously... I asked him a question, Marcus. Her tone could have frozen water. Elijah, can you read it? Elijah's hand trembled as he approached the case. The smell hit him first. Chemical preservatives, old leather, the scent of history. His sneakers squeaked on the marble floor. Too loud. Everyone heard. The other scholars stepped back, creating distance, like he carried something contagious. His finger hovered over the glass. Careful not to touch. Line 3. His voice was barely above a whisper. It says, between the merchant Theophilus and the temple administrator. Dr. Ortiz started typing frantically. Wait! Stop! His face went pale. The fragment we already confirmed, the merchant's name. He's right. How is he right? A younger woman pulled up reference texts on her tablet, scrolling fast. Elijah continued. It's a loan agreement. They're using abbreviated syntax. Traders along the Nile Red Sea route used these shortcuts to save papyrus. See this symbol? He pointed to a mark everyone had assumed was decorative. That means guaranteed by goods in transit. The silver-haired scholar leaned in, studied the symbol. Her face changed. My God, that's not a decorative flourish. Dr. Sinclair removed her glasses, cleaned them slowly, put them back on, looked at the document, looked at Elijah. What's your name? Elijah Carter, ma'am. Where did you study ancient languages, Elijah? I didn't study anywhere. I just read. A lot. Where are your parents? The question hit like a fist. Elijah's eyes dropped. His jaw tightened. Dr. Sinclair saw it. The flinch. The pain. She didn't push. Instead, she slid another document across the table. Demotic Egyptian. Different script entirely. What about this one? Elijah looked. His eyes moved across the lines. Fast. Tax receipt. 26th Dynasty. The taxpayer is complaining about the assessment rate. Says the provincial administrator is corrupt. A scholar laughed. Nervous. High-pitched. Another looked like he might be sick. Marcus pulled out his phone. Started researching. Trying to fact-check a homeless teenager in real time. Dr. Ortiz's voice came through the speaker. Margaret, I don't know what's happening right now, but that demotic translation, I just cross-referenced it. He's accurate. Completely accurate. Someone whispered, He's just a kid. Elijah heard it. Everyone heard it. Dr. Sinclair's voice cut through. He's a kid who just did what 12 of us couldn't do in 6 hours. She looked at Elijah, really looked, like seeing him for the first time. Where do you sleep, Elijah? The question hung in the air, heavy, uncomfortable. Elijah didn't answer, didn't need to. Everyone in the room suddenly understood why his jacket was too big. Why were his shoes worn through? Why he'd been on the loading dock at dawn. Dr. Sinclair asked the question everyone was thinking. Where do you sleep, Elijah? The words pulled him backward. 3 years. To when everything still made sense. The public library on 42nd Street. That's where it started. Elijah was 12 when his mother died. Cancer. Fast. 3 months from diagnosis to funeral. His father was already gone. Sentenced to 8 years for a crime he swore he didn't commit. No appeals. No family to take a kid nobody wanted. Foster care lasted 2 months. The family was nice enough, but their son wasn't. And when things went missing, everyone believed the foster kid did it. Elijah learned fast. When you're black and poor and not really theirs, you're always the easy answer. He ran. The library became home. Open until 9. Warm. Safe. Full of books that didn't judge. Mrs. Carter noticed him first. The Korean librarian in her 60s who'd worked reference for 30 years. She saw him memorizing textbooks, entire pages, word for word. "You have hyperlexia, don't you?" She didn't ask loud enough for others to hear. "Photographic memory?" Elijah nodded. "What do you like to read?" "Everything. But I really like the old languages, the dead ones." Mrs. Carter's expression softened. "Why the dead ones?" "Because they can't judge you. They just exist. They're beautiful, and nobody speaks them anymore, so they can't tell you you're not good enough." 27 books. That's how many linguistics texts lived in the library's collection. Elijah read them all, some twice. The words stayed in his head like photographs. Perfect recall, every symbol, every grammatical rule, every footnote. Ancient languages made sense. They had rules, patterns, logic, unlike the world that took his mother and father and any chance at normal. Then the library closed. Renovations, budget cuts. Temporary, they said. 6 months, maybe more. Elijah lost his sanctuary. 6 months of subway platforms, museum steps, shelter beds when available, always moving, always one security guard away from another confrontation. He kept one book, water damaged, spine broken, a discard stamp in red ink. Introduction to Semitic Languages. Some nights when sleep wouldn't come, he'd read it by streetlight, the same pages over and over, remembering when he had a place that wanted him. Now he stood in a room full of scholars who'd gone to the best universities, who had families and homes and health insurance, and he could read what they couldn't. Dr. Sinclair made her decision in 3 seconds. "I need you to stay. Help us finish this translation." Security guard Webb still stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "Dr. Sinclair, is this wise? He's just a kid who broke in." She didn't look at him. "He's more qualified than half the people in this room. I'll take full responsibility." Jennifer, the assistant who'd avoided Elijah that morning, spoke up. "But he's a minor. We need parental consent for anything official. Liability issues." "Then I'll be his guardian for today." Dr. Sinclair's tone allowed no argument. "Get the paperwork." She turned to Elijah. "Are you hungry?" He hesitated, nodded. "Jennifer, order food. Whatever he wants." She pulled a lab coat from the closet, adult size. It hung loose on Elijah's thin frame. "You work here now, temporarily. We'll figure out the rest later." She set a bottle of water and a notepad in front of him, gave him space at the table, between 2 scholars who looked like they'd swallowed glass. The hum of UV lights filled the silence. Pencils scratched as people took notes, from a 15-year-old homeless kid. The absurdity wasn't lost on anyone. Elijah's voice grew steadier as he read, line by line. The contract revealed itself. An agreement between a merchant and a temple, transportation of sacred artifacts, penalties for breach, insurance clauses, witness requirements. His finger traced the symbols, never touching the glass, just following the words like reading a bedtime story. This clause here specifies delivery timeline, 30 days from the new moon, payment in silver, weighed in the temple, verified by 3 witnesses. Dr. Ortiz leaned into his camera. The historical records support this. Temple silver trade was common in that period. Marcus whispered to another curator. Not quiet enough. This is embarrassing. We're trusting a street kid. Dr. Sinclair heard. Marcus, either contribute or leave. Your choice. Marcus went silent, but his expression said everything. Then Elijah stopped. Line 8. Different script woven into the Sahidic. This section. I need a minute. What is it? Dr. Sinclair asked. Old Nubian. I've only seen it once, in one book. Let me... He closed his eyes. The room watched, some skeptical, some curious, all uncomfortable. Elijah's fingers moved in the air, tracing invisible text. His lips moved silently, recalling pages he'd read years ago. 90 seconds passed. Felt like hours. His eyes opened. It's a witness clause. Requires 3 signatures. One from a Nubian trade partner. Proves the agreement crossed regional boundaries. The silver-haired scholar pulled up records on her tablet, scrolled. Her eyes widened. Nubian trade witnesses were standard for high-value contracts crossing Egyptian Kushite territories. This is correct. Dr. Ortiz's voice crackled through the speaker. How old were you when you read about old Nubian? 13. Someone made a sound, half laugh, half disbelief. You memorized a book about old Nubian at 13? Another scholar's voice carried pure skepticism. I don't try to memorize. It just stays. Dr. Sinclair's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. Her expression tightened. The museum director wants an update. She looked at Elijah, the kid who'd been thrown out 2 hours ago, who was now translating a document worth millions. I need to tell him something. Are you certain about this translation? Elijah met her eyes. Yes, ma'am. I'm certain. She nodded, stood, smoothed her lab coat. Then that's what I'll tell him. She walked toward the door, stopped, turned back. Don't let anyone make you feel small while I'm gone. The door closed behind her. Elijah sat at the table, surrounded by scholars with decades of experience and Ivy League degrees, and they were waiting for him to tell them what came next. The boardroom was all glass and leather, city views and expensive art. Richard Halloway, the museum director, sat at the head of the table, 62, white, $3,000 suit, a man used to control. Your source is a homeless teenager? His voice carried disbelief and something sharper, disgust. Margaret, a 15-year-old black kid off the street? Dr. Sinclair kept her spine straight. My source is someone who can read languages your entire staff cannot. The optics, Margaret. He leaned back, fingers steepled. A child, no credentials, living on the streets. What if he's running some kind of con? What if you're being played? Played into what? Accurate translations verified by 3 PhD linguists? Board members watched through video screens, silent, judging. Patricia Vance, the museum's legal consultant, shook her head. Expensive highlights caught the light. Dr. Sinclair, we cannot present this to the Egyptian delegation. The translator is a minor. Where are his parents? Who's legally responsible if something goes wrong? 3 separate experts have confirmed every line he's translated. Confirmed based on his initial reading. Patricia's tone sharpened. What if he's wrong? What if this is all an elaborate... An elaborate what? Dr. Sinclair's voice went cold. A con? By a child who can barely afford to eat? We have our reputation to consider. And he has his life to consider. His future. His one chance. Halloway stood, walked to the window, looked out over the city like a king surveying his kingdom. You're willing to stake your career on a 15-year-old homeless boy? Yes. Your tenure, your reputation, 20 years of work. Yes. For a kid you met this morning. For accuracy, for truth, for not letting prejudice decide who gets to be brilliant. Silence stretched, uncomfortable, heavy. Another board member spoke. Older man, Boston accent. Margaret, even if the boy is right, he's a child, a troubled child. The delegation will see this as unprofessional, desperate. The delegation will see results. From a black teenager living on museum steps? The words hung there. Everyone heard what he didn't say. The assumption underneath. Dr. Sinclair's jaw tightened. Say what you mean, Gerald. I mean, optics matter. Perception matters.
You mean you can't trust a black child to be what he's already proven he is? Brilliant.
Gerald's face flushed. That's exactly what you meant. Holloway turned from the window. This discussion is over. We'll revisit tomorrow. Margaret, I strongly suggest you find a more traditional solution. Outside the boardroom, Elijah sat on a bench, close enough to hear voices, not words, just tone, anger, dismissal, arguments about him, not with him. Jennifer sat nearby, scrolling her phone. She glanced at him, looked away. They don't mean it personally, she said, not looking up. Yes, they do. Elijah's voice was flat, empty. I'm used to it. Used to what? Being invisible until I'm useful, then being too risky to trust. He stood. It's always the same, every time. He walked toward the elevator. Jennifer watched him go. Guilt flickered across her face. This morning's memory. Pulling her bag away. Walking past. The elevator dinged. Doctor. Sinclair burst through the boardroom door, saw Elijah waiting for the doors to open. Don't go. He didn't turn around. Elijah, please. I'm making it worse for you. I always make it worse. She reached the elevator, stood beside him, not blocking, just present. You're not making anything worse. Their fear is. The elevator doors opened. Empty car waiting. Neither moved. Dr. Sinclair pulled out her card, pressed it into his hand. Tomorrow, 8 a.m., we present to the Egyptian delegation. What if I mess up? I'm just a kid. She bent down, eye level, the way a mother would. You're not just anything, Elijah. You're extraordinary. His eyes filled. He blinked hard. I need you tomorrow, but only if you choose to come back. The elevator doors closed. Empty. Elijah looked at the card in his hand. Dr. Margaret Sinclair, Director, Ancient Languages Division. Someone finally saw him. Really saw him. The question was whether he was brave enough to show up again. 7:55 a.m. Elijah stood outside the museum. Same worn jacket, hair combed with water in a subway bathroom. Dr. Sinclair waited inside. Shopping bags in her hands, youth sizes, still tagged. You're a consultant now. Dress the part. The bathroom mirror showed someone different. Button-down shirt, pants that fit. First new clothes in 18 months. He touched the collar, tried not to cry. 8:15. Black cars arrived. The Egyptian delegation. Serious men in expensive suits. One woman in a navy hijab. All carrying authority like weapons. Dr. Youssef El Sayed led them. 55. Sharp eyes that missed nothing. Dr. Sinclair, I trust you have answers? Significant progress. The conference room was filled. Egyptian legal team, cultural attaché, their translator, museum staff. The air is thick with tension and money. Dr. Sinclair presented preliminary findings. The contract's structure, terms, parties. Dr. El Sayed listened, nodded, revealed nothing. Impressive. He opened his briefcase. We've brought a complementary fragment. We need simultaneous verification. A photograph slid across the table. Different papyrus, same impossible script. Our translator reads in Arabic, yours in English. If they align, we proceed. He looked at the video screen. Dr. Ortiz? Actually, Dr. Sinclair stood. Our lead translator is here. She gestured to Elijah. The room froze. Dr. El Sayed's face changed. This is a boy? This is Elijah Carter, 15, the reason we're here. The Egyptian attaché whispered in Arabic, fast, sharp. Why waste time with a child? Elijah understood every word, said nothing. Dr. El Sayed studied him. You translated the primary document? Yes, sir. At 15? Yes, sir. Convenient. No warmth in the word. The Egyptian translator, Dr. Amina Hassan, set up her materials. 43. 2 decades of experience. She glanced at Elijah like he was playing dress-up. Shall we begin? Both documents projected on screens. Dr. Hassan began. Arabic flowing smooth, professional, unshakable. Elijah followed in English. Younger voice, but accurate. In the name of the Merchant Guild, witnessed by the Temple Council, payment rendered in silver, weighed and verified. Perfect synchronization. Same dates, same names, same terms. Clause 7. Both stopped. Dr. Hassan switched to English. This section references, Elijah finished, a third party, Nubian witness. We identified him yesterday. She stared. You know Nubian witness protocols? Yes, ma'am. Standard cross-regional trade structure. Your Sahidic pronunciation. Where did you study? Books. Library books. Is it wrong? She removed her glasses, cleaned them, put them back. No, it's museum quality. Long pause. From library books? Yes, ma'am. Dr. El Sayed watched this exchange, silent, assessing. His attaché spoke, English this time, meant to be heard. We're trusting our delegation to a child? Dr. Hassan turned, sharp. We're trusting accuracy, which he's provided. She looked at Elijah, really looked, without doubt. Your reading is correct, completely correct. The validation hit like oxygen. Elijah's hands shook under the table. Voice stayed steady. Thank you, ma'am. Dr. El Sayed stood. 30-minute recess. Everyone filed out. Dr. Hassan approached Elijah. How many languages have you taught yourself? 7 ancient, a few modern. At 15? Yes, ma'am. She handed him her card. Cairo University, Department of Linguistics. When you're older, contact me for formal study. She paused. Colleague to colleague. That word. Colleague. Nobody had ever called him that. Dr. El Sayed returned from recess, his team behind him, faces unreadable. We need clarification on the translator's credentials. Silence. Heavy. Waiting. Dr. Sinclair stood. Elijah is 15 years old. He has no formal degree. No school record for the past 18 months. Museum Director Holloway went pale. Margaret, she continued, louder. What he has is photographic memory and a gift 3 universities missed. Her voice filled the room. He's been homeless for 6 months. taught himself 7 ancient languages in a public library, and he's the only reason we're having this conversation. Dr. El-Sayed turned to Elijah. You taught yourself? No teachers? Yes, sir. At 15, you read Sahidic, Aramaic, Demotic, Nubian, and Greek, Latin, Akkadian, Middle Egyptian, sir. The Egyptian delegation exchanged glances, whispers in Arabic. Layla Hassan, the cultural attaché, spoke up. Dr. El-Sayed, Cairo has programs for child prodigies. The university offers full scholarships. Dr. Sinclair stepped forward, protective. With respect, Ms. Hassan, Elijah is American. We need programs here. He shouldn't have to leave his country or be homeless to be valued. She looked at Elijah, looked at something fierce in her eyes, like a mother defending her child. Elijah's eyes filled. Nobody had fought for him like this since his mother died. Dr. El-Sayed walked slowly around the table, stopped in front of Elijah. Stand up, young man. Elijah stood, tried not to shake. If we proceed with this translation as our legal foundation, I have one condition. The room held its breath. Your name will be listed as primary translator on all official documents, academic record, legal filings, international archives. Elijah's voice broke. Sir? At 15, you've accomplished what scholars twice your age cannot. That deserves recognition. He extended his hand. Formal. Official. They shook. Dr. El-Sayed turned to Dr. Sinclair. And you'll ensure he has proper support, education, housing? You have my word. He won't be homeless again. Dr. Amina Hassan added, We'll provide reference letters for any program he applies to. Marcus, the junior curator who'd doubted him from the start, stood, approached. His face different now, ashamed. Elijah, I was wrong about you, completely wrong. I judged you by age and circumstances instead of ability. I apologize. Elijah didn't know what to say. Thank you. No. Thank you. You taught me something important today. Other scholars approached, offered hands, apologies, respect. The silver-haired woman who'd questioned his credibility. I've been in this field 40 years. What you did today, remarkable. Even Jennifer, the assistant, came over. I'm sorry. For this morning. For pulling my bag away like you were. She couldn't finish. Didn't need to. I see you now, she said quietly. Really see you. Dr. El-Sayed raised his voice. Tomorrow, we sign, with Elijah Carter's name on the document. He looked at the museum director. Non-negotiable. Holloway could only nod. The Egyptian delegation filed out. Dr. Hassan paused at the door. Elijah, Egypt values genius. At any age. Remember that. The door closed. Elijah stood in a room full of people who'd dismissed him hours ago. Now they saw what Dr. Sinclair had seen from the start. Someone worth believing in. The delegation broke for lunch. Elijah found his way back to the conservation lab. Empty now. Quiet. He stared at the preliminary document on the table. His name typed in black ink. Elijah Carter, primary translator. His finger traced the letters, like they might disappear if he blinked. Dr. Sinclair found him there, didn't announce herself, just sat down beside him. Not across. Same level. She didn't speak right away, just sat, present. Finally, she broke the silence. My father was a janitor at Harvard. Elijah looked up, surprised. He worked nights. When my mother was sick, he'd bring me with him. I'd read books students left in lecture halls. Philosophy, literature, books I had no business understanding at 12. Did you go to Harvard? Eventually, but first, someone had to see past the janitor's daughter. She pulled out her phone, showed him a photo. Young girl, maybe 15, standing with an older black man in a custodian uniform, both smiling. His name was Samuel. He told me something I've never forgotten. Her voice softened. He said, "They'll see the uniform before they see you. Prove them wrong every time." I was 16 when he said that. Your age, almost. Elijah studied the photo. The girl who became Dr. Sinclair. The father who believed in her. You remind me why I do this work. I just read languages. No. She turned to face him fully. You remind people that genius doesn't come with a resume, or an age requirement, or a permanent address. Her hand rested on his shoulder, not like Webb's grip that morning, not pushing him away. This touch said, I see you. I believe in you. I have something for you. She pulled out a library card. Brand new. His name is printed on it. Mrs. Carter called yesterday. She's been looking for you since the library reopened last week. His hands trembled, taking it. The children's section has new linguistics books. Anonymous donation. A small smile. They're waiting for you. Elijah tried to speak. Couldn't. The card blurred through tears. And I talked to youth services. We're setting up temporary guardianship. You'll have a place to stay while we figure out long-term arrangements. The tears came. Quiet. Years of holding everything together finally breaking. She didn't shush him. Didn't tell him to be strong. Just pulled him into a hug. First real hug in 3 years. He sobbed into her shoulder. All the fear, all the nights sleeping on concrete, all the times he'd been invisible. Someone finally cared enough to see him, to fight for him, to give him back what the world had taken. You're going to be okay, she whispered. I promise. You're going to be okay. And for the first time since his mother died, Elijah believed it. 2 p.m. Final contract review before signing. Everyone back in the conference room. Egyptian legal team, museum staff, translators on screens. The energy is different now. Cautiously optimistic. Then the Egyptian legal expert spoke. Older man, gray beard, reading glasses. There's a discrepancy. The room frozen. The date conversion, line 43. If this is wrong, the entire contract fails validation. Dr. Sinclair leaned forward. What kind of discrepancy? The Coptic calendar year doesn't align with the Roman year we need for legal standing. If the conversion is off, 3 institutions lose their claims. 200 million in artifacts. International law implications. Holloway's face went white. Dr. Ortiz pulled up references on his screen. Typed frantically. We need to verify against the museum's Coptic calendar codex. But that's in deep storage. 6 hours minimum to retrieve and authenticate. Dr. El Sayed checked his watch. Our flight leaves at 8 p.m. Without verification, we cannot sign. Can we reschedule? Holloway's voice carried desperation. Next month, perhaps. But the political window closes this week. After that, priorities shift. The deal was dying. Right there. In real time. Everything Elijah had done. Dr. Sinclair's reputation, the museum's credibility, all collapsing. Elijah's voice came out small. What if I verify it now? Every head turned. The codex, I read it, 2 years ago, when it was in the public display. Marcus stood. Elijah, the codex has 400 pages of dense calendrical tables. I know. You were 13. I know. You're saying you remember it? All of it? Dr. Hassan, the Egyptian translator, leaned forward. You have photographic memory. Complete recall? Elijah nodded. Holloway shook his head. Dr. Sinclair, this is too risky. We can't stake everything on a child's memory of a book he read 2 years ago. Dr. El Sayed's voice cut through. Young man, if you're wrong, this agreement fails. Years of diplomatic work, wasted. I understand, sir. The pressure on a 15-year-old. This isn't fair to ask. Elijah met his eyes. Nothing about my life has been fair, sir. But this I can do. Dr. Sinclair touched his arm. Elijah, are you certain? It's okay to say no. His voice steadied. I remember the conversion tables. Let me try. She looked at him, really looked, saw the determination, the certainty. Do it. The room rearranged. Elijah at the head of the table now. 20 people watching, waiting. He closed his eyes. The room held its breath. Complete silence except for the hum of fluorescent lights. Someone's watch ticking. Traffic outside. Elijah's finger traced patterns in the air, like reading invisible text. His face showed concentration, eyes moving rapidly under closed lids. He was seeing it. The page. Clear as the day he'd first read it. Sweat formed on his forehead despite the cool room. Page 247. His voice distant, uncertain. Third column. His eyes stayed closed, fingers still moving. The table converts Coptic calendar year 1050 to Roman year 334 Common Era. He opened his eyes, blinked, looked around like waking from a dream. The contract date matches. It's valid. Dr. Sinclair grabbed the phone. Archives. This is Director Sinclair. Authorization code Alpha 7. Pull the Coptic calendar codex immediately. Page 247, third column. I need confirmation in 1 hour. The archive supervisor's voice crackled. Director, that's a 6-hour process. Make it 1 hour. Everything depends on it. She hung up. Now they waited. 60 minutes stretched like days. People made small talk, nervous energy. Nobody really listening to anyone else. Elijah sat apart, second-guessing everything. What if his memory failed? What if he'd mixed up pages? What if he just destroyed Dr. Sinclair's entire career? Dr. Hassan approached, sat beside him. How many books have you memorized? I don't know. I don't try to memorize. It just stays. Have you been tested? Formally? No, ma'am. No one to take me. No insurance. She exchanged a look with Dr. El Sayed across the room. Something passed between them. Understanding. Recognition. Elijah, regardless of what happens today, you have a gift. An extraordinary gift. What if I'm wrong? Then you're wrong. But you were brave enough to try. 45 minutes. The conference room felt smaller, hotter. Marcus paced. Holloway checked his phone every 30 seconds. Dr. Ortiz stared at his screen like willing the answer to appear. 50 minutes. Dr. Sinclair stood by the window, arms crossed, not praying, but close. 58 minutes. The phone rang. Dr. Sinclair grabbed it, put it on speaker. The archivist's voice, slightly breathless. Page 247, third column confirmed. Coptic calendar year 1050 corresponds to Roman year 334 Common Era. Pause. The child was absolutely correct. The room erupted, voices overlapping, relief, disbelief, amazement. Elijah dropped his head into his hands. Dr. El Sayed stood, walked deliberately to Elijah, extended his hand. Young man, you have one of the most remarkable minds I've ever encountered, and I've taught at 3 universities across 2 continents. They shook hands. Have you considered advanced study? Egypt has programs, full scholarships, housing, support. Dr. Sinclair stepped in, gentle but firm. He has options here too. I'll make certain of that. Dr. El Sayed nodded, respect in his eyes. Then, America is fortunate. The Egyptian team gathered their materials, preparing to leave, return for tomorrow's signing. But Elijah couldn't stay. The adrenaline draining left him shaking, empty. He excused himself, found the ancient Egypt gallery, the one he'd walked through dozens of times when the museum was open, when he was invisible. He sat on the floor, back against the wall beneath a statue of Thoth, god of wisdom and writing. The tears came, relief, exhaustion, fear he'd been holding for hours. I could have been wrong. I could have ruined everything. Jennifer found him there, the assistant who'd avoided him that morning. She didn't ask permission, just sat down beside him on the floor, mirrored his position, back against the wall. They sat in silence. Long moment. I'm sorry. Her voice is quiet. For this morning. For pulling my bag away from you like you were something dangerous. Like you were... She couldn't finish. I see you now. Really see you. And I'm sorry I didn't before. Elijah nodded, couldn't speak. She pulled a granola bar and juice box from her purse. You haven't eaten all day. You're still a kid. You need to eat. Small kindness, huge impact. He took them, whispered, "Thank you." They sat together. Two people who'd started the day on opposite sides of a wall, both learning something about seeing past surfaces. Above them, Thoth's statue stood silent, ancient witness to a modern moment of grace. 6 p.m. The museum's grand hall, marble columns rising 30 feet, crystal chandeliers catching the evening light. This room had hosted presidents and kings. Tonight, it hosted a 15-year-old homeless boy. Press filled the back rows. Cameras. Reporters from The Times, CNN, Al Jazeera. This wasn't just a museum event anymore. This was international news. The signing table sat on a raised platform. Ornate. Historic. Usually reserved for major acquisitions. Elijah stood to the side. The blazer Dr. Sinclair bought him still had the tag tucked inside. She'd purchased it during lunch. Hadn't even asked his size. Just knew. It fit perfectly. Museum Director Holloway. Egyptian delegation. Legal teams from 3 countries, all taking their seats at the table. Cameras flashed. Reporters murmured into phones. Dr. El Sayed raised his hand. Silence fell. Before we sign, one correction to the document. Concern rippled through the room. Not again. He pointed to the byline, official translator credits. This currently lists institutional translators. Dr. Ramon Ortiz, Dr. Amina Hassan, our respective teams. He looked directly at Elijah. I insist we add primary translation and verification by Elijah Carter, independent scholar. The room went still, then applause. Scattered at first, building, growing, real recognition, public, permanent. His name in the historical record. Holloway had no choice. Not with cameras rolling, not with international witnesses. Agreed. An assistant brought the amended document, printed fresh, notarized on the spot. There, in black ink. Official and real. Primary translation and verification by Elijah Carter, independent scholar. The signing proceeded. Pens on paper, handshakes, flashes of light. Then the press questions began. New York Times reporter. Dr. Sinclair, can you speak to your team's methodology? Dr. Sinclair stepped to the microphone. She didn't hesitate. I can speak to what happened when we almost missed genius because it didn't arrive in the package we expected. She told his story. 15 years old, homeless since 14. self-taught, dismissed repeatedly. Elijah out-translated experts with decades of experience and multiple advanced degrees, not despite his circumstances. His mind simply works at a level most of us cannot comprehend. Pause. Let it land. And we almost threw him out like trash this morning. The room shifted. Uncomfortable truth spoken aloud. CNN reporter called out, "Can we hear from Elijah?" Every camera turned. Microphones extended. Dr. Sinclair gestured. "Elijah?" He approached the microphone like approaching a cliff, terrified, shaking. The microphone stood too tall. Someone adjusted it down for a child. "What do you want people to know?" His mouth went dry. Hands trembled. This morning, he'd been invisible. Now the world watched. Dr. Sinclair nodded encouragement from the side. He found his voice, small, cracking, but honest. "That the library saved my life." The words came slow. "Books were my family when I had no one. And Dr. Sinclair believed me when everyone else just saw a problem to remove." He pointed to her, tears in his eyes. "She saw me, really saw me." His voice broke completely, but he pushed through. "So if there's a kid sitting on museum steps tomorrow, or in a library, or anywhere, just see them, please." The room was silent, phones recording, cameras capturing raw, unfiltered truth from a child. Another reporter. "What's next for you?" Elijah's face showed honest confusion. "I don't know. I've never been able to think about next. I just tried to survive each day." Dr. El Sayed stood, approached the microphone. "Perhaps I can help answer that." After the press left, Dr. Sinclair brought Elijah to her office. Holloway is already there. His expression completely changed from this morning, chastened, respectful. "Elijah, the board held an emergency meeting during the signing." Elijah's stomach dropped. Expected consequences. Expected everything taken away. "They've created a position, youth translator in residence, first of its kind in any major museum." Pause. "It's yours, if you want it." Elijah couldn't process words. "I don't have anywhere to," Holloway interrupted, actually apologetic. "The position includes housing stipend, full health insurance, educational support, everything you need." Dr. Sinclair continued. "And I've been approved as your temporary legal guardian, until we find permanent placement, or until you're 18, if you'll have me." The room spun. Dr. El Sayed also connected me with Columbia's linguistics department. They're offering a full scholarship. Starts when you're ready for university. First, we help you finish high school properly. She leaned forward, made sure he heard this. "You're not homeless anymore, Elijah. Not unless you choose to be." He couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. She opened her desk drawer, pulled out something official, laminated. Museum ID badge. His photo from this afternoon. First official picture in 3 years. Name, Elijah Carter. Title, Youth Translator in Residence Security Clearance, Research Staff. He took it with both hands, like holding something sacred, fragile, traced his name with one finger. "Is this real?" His voice barely whisper. "I'm not dreaming?" Dr. Sinclair's eyes filled. "This is real. This is earned. This is yours." He clutched the badge to his chest, shoulders shaking, trying not to break down completely. "Thank you. Words are inadequate, insufficient. Thank you." The Egyptian delegation waited in the hall, final goodbyes before their flight. Dr. El Sayed shook Elijah's hand again. "When you're older, visit Cairo. As a scholar, the archives await you." Dr. Hassan gave him her card. "Call me when you do. We'll explore together, colleague to colleague."
That word again. Colleague. Even Marcus approached, the curator who'd doubted him from the start. Elijah, I judged you by age and circumstances instead of ability. That was wrong. Deeply wrong. He extended his hand. Thank you for teaching me something I should have already known. They shook. Elijah gracious beyond his years. Thank you for saying that. No. Thank you for being brave enough to show up. Late evening, museum closing, security making final rounds. Webb, the guard from that morning, found Elijah at a desk in the conservation lab, reading under a single lamp, surrounded by ancient texts. Webb stopped in the doorway, remembered his hands on the kid's shoulders, the dismissal, the assumption. He removed his cap. I owe you an apology, son. Elijah looked up. You were doing your job, sir? No. Webb stepped inside. I was making assumptions. That's not my job. That's just prejudice wearing a uniform. He extended his hand. Welcome to the museum, Mr. Carter. They shook. Formal, respectful, Elijah's badge clipped to his shirt, catching lamplight. Proof this wasn't a dream. Webb left. Elijah returned to his book. The lamp glowed warm. His worn backpack sat beside a new museum-issued laptop, still in the box, too precious to open yet. Through the window, New York City spread out in lights. The same streets where he'd slept. The same steps where he'd been dismissed. But now he had a key. To an apartment. To a future. To himself. The camera would pull back now. If this were a film, show the small figure in the vast library, show how he belonged here, how he'd always belonged. But this wasn't fiction. This was a 15-year-old boy who'd survived homelessness and prejudice and a world that tried to make him invisible. And he'd won. Not by changing who he was, by proving who he'd always been. 3 months later. Elijah sat in a private tutoring session, museum-funded. The tutor, retired professor, treated him like a scholar, not a charity case. Advanced mathematics, literature, sciences he'd missed while surviving. An envelope arrived. Columbia University seal, early admission program for exceptional students. He opened it with Dr. Sinclair watching. Congratulations on your acceptance. His hands shook, holding the letter. She hugged him. Both cried. The apartment was small, studio in Queens, but it was his. First place with his name on the lease. He still slept with the light on. Still woke up sometimes thinking he was on the street. Learning to feel safe took time, but he was learning. The library on 42nd Street. Mrs. Carter behind the reference desk. Same place she'd been for 30 years. Elijah walked in wearing his museum badge. She saw it. Her face crumpled. They embraced in the middle of the children's section, both sobbing, other patrons staring. I knew you were special, she whispered. I always knew. You saved me. You saw me when I was invisible. No, baby. You saved yourself. I just gave you books. Dr. Sinclair's office wall told the story. Framed photo of Elijah with the Egyptian delegation. Another of him receiving the museum's Youth Achievement Award. A third of him giving a tour to school kids his age. She looked at them every day, reminded herself why the work mattered. Dawn, 6:47 a.m. Same time he'd been dismissed 3 months ago. Elijah sat on the museum steps, professional clothes, museum badge visible. But he sat anyway, remembering, honoring the journey. A young girl appeared, 12, black, school uniform worn at the edges, carrying a library book. Introduction to Ancient Greek. She sat on the steps, started reading. Elijah smiled. That's a tough one. Good choice. She jumped. pulled the book close, protective. I'm not doing anything wrong. The words hit him. She expected to be moved along, just like he had. I know. I used to sit here too, waiting for the library. She nodded, suspicious. You like languages? My teacher says it's weird. Nobody thinks it's cool. He saw himself at 12, so clearly it hurt. I think it's cool. I work here. I translate ancient languages. She looked skeptical. You're not that old. I'm 15. Started learning when I was your age. He showed his badge. Her eyes went wide. That's a real job? Very real. He pulled out his card. If you want to see the real artifacts, the ancient writing, call this number. Ask for me. I'll give you a personal tour. She took the card carefully, like something valuable. For real? For real. Someone gave me a chance. I want to do the same. She studied the card, then his face. Why? Because every kid deserves to be seen, really seen. She nodded slowly. Didn't quite believe it yet, but wanted to. I'll call. Maybe. I hope you do. She left, clutching his card and her Greek textbook. Elijah watched her go, saw his own past walking away, but also someone's future walking forward. The narrator's voice would come here, steady, calm. The voice that's guided this whole story. Elijah's story isn't just about one brilliant mind being discovered. It's about how many we miss while they're standing right in front of us. Invisible because they're young, because they're homeless, because they don't look like what we expect genius to look like. Right now, today, there's a child on museum steps, in a library, on a subway platform, waiting, hoping. Brilliant. Mrs. Carter saw it in a library. Dr. Sinclair saw it on museum steps. The Egyptian delegation saw it in a translation. What will you see today? Who will you see today? The Carter Initiative launched 6 weeks after the signing. Dr. Sinclair's proposal. Partnership with New York City homeless shelters. 15 teenagers hired as paid interns. Not just languages. Art, science, history, conservation. Columbia created the Second Chance Scholars Fund. Full scholarships for homeless youth with exceptional abilities. 3 other museums adopted the program. Boston, Chicago, Washington, D.C. Mrs. Carter reopened the library's evening program. Safe space for homeless youth. Books, warmth, hope. One story. One person who chose to see instead of dismiss. Ripples spreading outward. If this story moved you, share it. Tag someone who needs to hear that their circumstances don't define their worth. Comment below. Have you ever been underestimated because of your age? Your background? How did you prove them wrong? Subscribe for more stories about talent hiding in plain sight. And if you can, donate to youth literacy programs. Support your local library. Mentor a young person. Genius is everywhere. We just need to look. Final scene. Elijah at his desk, translating a Byzantine manuscript. Easy work now. What once seemed impossible. Dr. Sinclair enters. Don't stay too late. School tomorrow. I know, Mom. He'd started calling her that. Still made them both emotional every time. She paused at the door. Proud of you, kiddo. Proud of you, too. She left. He returned to his work. And the final words appear. Simple. True. Your next discovery might be the person you almost didn't see. The statistics follow. Real. Sobering. 1.3 million homeless youth in America. 68% have above-average intelligence. Less than 3% access higher education. Resources listed. Ways to help. Numbers to call. The Carter Initiative is fictional, but the need is real. Every library, every museum, every institution can choose to see talent. Will yours? The screen fades, but the question remains.
Elijah Carter was 4 hours at a museum at dawn for looking homeless. By sunset, his name was on $200 million contracts. But here's what really gets me. 12 PhDs couldn't crack that ancient text. A 15-year-old sleeping on museum steps did it in minutes. Not because he had advantages, because he learned learning when he had nothing else. Elijah taught himself 7 languages in a library because books were his family. He memorized page 247 of a calendar codex 2 years ago, not for school, just because it was beautiful. The security guards saw a homeless thief. Dr. Sinclair saw Julius in world schools. The difference, she actually looked. One person choosing to see past assumption changed a life. Think about the last person you dismissed before they spoke. The kid you assumed was trouble. The resume you tossed because of the address. Right now, there's a billion mice sleeping in your city's library. 1.3 million homeless youth in America. 68% have above average intelligence. Less than 3% each colleague. Not because they can't, because nobody is looking. Share Elijah's story. Support your local library. They save lives. Comment. When were you underestimated because of how you looked? Your next discovery might be the person that you almost didn't see. The genius doesn't need credentials, just someone brave